Good morning to you and welcome to Daybreak Live today, Monday. It's going to be a wonderful day to talk about many developing stories across the country, Nigeria. My name is Anu Oluwapo Idu.
Good morning once again and thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Oluwayemi Adelako.
Yes, the different conversations we have, of course, would run from elections, of course, the Electoral Act as well, and maybe some other things. Electoral violence, as it were, would be the big story. And of course, we still have subsequent editions and other angles to look at in today's edition of the broadcast.
Right, and for our Daybreak just this morning, we intend to talk about the NDC. Says Peter Obi is the most popular opposition candidate ahead of the 2027 elections. I want to believe that all the political parties will also come out to say my candidate is the best.
Absolutely. It's always a conversation to pick. Of course, there's always something to talk about when it comes to politics. But of course, we'll keep tabs on that and probably just engage the conversation in the course of this particular discourse.
Exactly, and for our big story, just like you mentioned, Sam Woko is our guest for this morning, deputy editor with the Nigerian Tribune. We intend to have a full discussion on that particular one. Good morning to you, Hannah.
Hello, good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, Oluwayemi, this morning.
So for the Daybreak gist, just like I mentioned earlier, NDC saying Peter Obi most popular opposition candidate, and that did not just happen, because a particular group, G100, went to the NDC, and then they were trying to talk about, facilitating, a common group, or let me say, one opposition political party, like other political parties, who are regarded or who are referred to as opposition, can come together and then form one single opposition party to face the APC come 2027. But then NDC is saying we are not interested in that. We are not interested in coming together with all the other political parties against APC in 2027. We believe we can stand alone. We believe we can defeat the incumbent. And then I think some members of the NDC are also making reference to the number of votes that Peter Obi was able to gather in 2023. Yeah, he came third, but then he was able to gather thousands of votes. But then I just want to believe that this is normal. I don't expect anything less from the NDC. Even other political parties, talk about the ADC now. They'll come out and tell you Atiku is the most popular candidate, and then he's not just popular. He's a politician, he's won primaries, for so many times. He has the money, he has the charisma, he also has the popularity. He came second, so they also have a good point, coming from the ADC. And then all the political parties, one faction of the PDP who is supporting the former president, that's Jonathan, will also come out to tell Nigerians, Jonathan, I mean, we don't even need to praise him so much. You all know him, he's been there before, he's done it before, he's your son, this and that, so he's popular, he's the best person for the job. And even all the candidates from all the political parties who are contesting for the presidency. So I don't expect anything less from those people. And even if you speak to APC will tell you, I think they've even said it, times without number, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is their candidate and then he can do the job. And I think I asked one of my analysts a few days ago, I asked him that question, who is the easiest candidate to say? And then he mentioned his own candidate. So it depends on who is answering the question. It depends on which circuit. It depends on the political party. They will all come out to tell you their candidate is the best. But then, is that the right way to go? Because I want to believe something similar happened in 2022, 2023, when some Nigerians were speaking to the opposition parties. Why can't you all come together and then give us one candidate that we can actually vote for? But then that did not happen. As a matter of fact, it led to several issues in the PDP. Some persons walked out of the party. We had the G5, even though unfortunately it has scattered today. We don't even know if there's any G, in that, discussion anymore. But then away from that, I don't think that will happen this time around before the 2027 elections. I don't see these people coming together. Even within these political parties, they have their own issues. So now imagine, bringing these people together is going to cause more issues. But then, is that the best thing for Nigeria as we speak today? I think that's the conversation this morning.
Fantastic, and I'll start from sometimes politicians and maybe parties as well, they lose track of the real deal, because the real conversation should not be who's more prominent, who's popular, who is not. It's actually who is capable And I understand this is also one of the antics and the rhetorics of politics in Nigeria, where you try to put out words that you don't want to be out of relevance. So you keep saying things, you keep talking about things, and it's okay for them to say Peter Obi is popular, which is okay. I guess it's really popular. And, judging by the past elections, he's been able to garner some strength, some numbers, and I think it's a good one for him. But again, to dwell on that as a basis for your confidence would be like putting your hopes on something that is so brittle and fragile, right? So I think that's not exactly what they should focus on when it comes to, but it's just a way to maybe put out themselves to be as relevant as they would love to become 2027 general elections. But again, because if you would maybe beg the question, so what is it about popularity? For example, your state, who is the candidate of the APC for governorship? I'm not sure Sharafaddin is as popular as Adelabu. Well, some might disagree, but from what I think, I'm not so sure Sharafaddin is as prominent in terms of popularity as Adelabu. So it's not really sometimes who is more known, who is more prominent, who is more known for what. I think that's a better conversation. Who is more popular for what? Popular for just because people, there are a lot of people. For example, I don't mean to say this, but a lot of people would argue that Portable, for example, is popular, and we know he's popular. But the other question would be that when it comes to maybe giving awards, musical awards or whatsoever recognition, would he be the best candidate for that particular award? So that's a question. That's another question you might want to think about. So it's not basically who is popular. My answer is who is popular for what? Who is popular for competence? I think that's a good one. Who is popular for that's won the heart of people by what he's done in the past? I think that's also a very good way to look at it. But to say that your candidate is popular, well, all the best to you guys. I really want it to really be. I want this election to be as competitive as we could ever maybe dream of in the country. I want it to be tight. I don't want anybody to just walk over. I don't want anybody to just have a smooth ride over other people just because you. Wherever you belong. So I really want it to be as competitive, but it's a good one that the NDC is saying. Maybe the ADC should also come out to mention this, and as well, APC has not stopped talking about that. So I think for me, it's not a contest of who is more known. It is a contest of who is more known for what. Can people really trust your candidate? So those are the right conversations to have. And I think we've also talked. I remember last week we were talking about the fact that many times. It's the politics in the country. Sometimes I feel politics is always a distraction to governance, and I keep saying this is even a mantra for me because I've seen in the past years and even in our current administration of the APC, I've seen that it's always the same thing. When we talk about politics, we're always around some kind of conversations. When the world has moved on, I think we are still sleeping on many things, right? There are basic conversations. I remember I understudied the United States election, the last one, and I saw what the Democrats and the Republicans were putting on the table. And I was asking the question, like, there are a lot of ideological fight between the two. So some said we are going to be concerned about border closing or border closure. The others said, well, we would do something, but maybe not extreme in that sense. So there are a lot of ideological fight and conflict in that, which I think I like. I like ideological fight. I don't like political fight. Political fight gets us nowhere. Ideological fight would help us to know, okay, so this is your ideology, but this is not what Nigeria should run by. And then, okay, and then you propose, and it's, on, and we have it better, instead of always having a political fight here and there and talking ill of a party, bringing them down, having litigations, going back and forth on politics. The time you should focus on governance, you are all about politics. And politics, I'm so sorry, and from what I've seen, has not really gotten us to where we want to be. So what do we do going forward? I think the conversations should be, for example, like they have brought it out. If they had brought it out this way to say, Peter Obi is popular for delivery, because going to, deliver on his deliverables. So that's it. That's what I want to listen to, not just that it's popular. Anybody can be popular. Osama bin Laden was popular. Saddam Hussein was popular. A lot of people were popular, but it's not popular for just popularity. It's popular for something that is strategic, something that can make the nation better. And I think that would be my stance.
Exactly. I think you're very spot on because beyond your popularity. People want to know what you intend to bring to the table, how you intend to better their lives, and then they are looking for another alternative, at least for so many persons or for some people that would not vote for the current administration. Because at the end of the day, let's not deceive ourselves. The reason why so many persons do not come out to vote, is because they feel, the person ruling, I'm not interested in voting for that person, and then looking at the other candidates, I'm still not interested. So I really will not come out to vote. And I think it's not good for us. It's not good for democracy, because at the end of the day, if you sit at home because you do not like the people that have been pushed out, about the political parties, and then you're not. How do you even intend to complain after the election, maybe 2 years into the administration or 3 years into the administration? So beyond the popularity, I think we need more from the candidate actually. And then if you look at the other candidate, Atiku is also very popular. And then I think the last election even made Peter Obi more popular because of the political party, especially the youth wing of the country. They came out en masse to vote and then to campaign for him. And I still think some youth even still voted for other candidates. They were youth who voted for Atiku. They came out in their numbers, they supported him. They had this popular name, I really cannot remember right now. So when it comes to popularity, we need more than popularity. What do you intend to do for the people? And then it's left for the people to choose. At least with the last election in Osun State, we can tell that the people are being encouraged a little bit to say that whether you come out or not, you already know who's going to win. No, don't do that. Come out to vote. And then I think the political parties, they need to do more as well. If they don't get it right this time around, I think same thing that happened in 2023 might still happen. Because at the end of the day, the voters will have to split their votes. So once the election is concluded, it might be difficult for one person to say, okay, I want to give all my votes to this person. They will now start going to court from one court case to another, just like we saw in 2023. And then they will waste, resources, they will waste money, this and that, paid lawyers for briefing and all of those things. So I don't see these political parties coming together, and it's not just because of maybe they don't want to partner with anybody. It's because they even have issues themselves. They have internal problems themselves. So bringing other people to join them, I think, is going to cause some more issues for them. So at the end of the day, they might not be able to come together, to actually win this election. And I don't see them coming together in the first place. But then it's going to make a lot of sense if these people actually decide to come together. Let's even see if that can do anything, if that can change anything, for the people. But then what about people who think, okay, because I've seen certain tweets online, especially on X, I see, for instance, now when Peter Obi moved to the ADC at first, some person said, oh, I'm done supporting Peter Obi. Why did he move to the ADC? How come he's supporting these same people that he once criticized and things like that? I think Shore was part of those people that came out to say, I will never. You see, the reason why I don't support these people, I criticize them. Atiku is not the same. Peter Obi is not the same. Honestly, ultimately, to Shore, I don't think anyone is the same to him in terms of all those popular politicians, and that's okay. That's his opinion. So I'm just trying to go back to the opinion of people to say that even when these people come together, there are people who will not vote for the opposition because they believe that these people coming together is going to affect them, it's going to affect my candidates. There are people who are core supporters of Peter Obi. So if Peter Obi should decide to come together with any other person, they might not even support him. There are people who are core supporters of Atiku. So if Atiku should decide to actually come together with whether Peter Obi or maybe Jonathan, they might decide not to vote for Atiku. So it's a problem in this country because people are loyal to one person. So they might not be loyal to a coalition. And that's another problem. So how sure are we that when these people even come together, they are going to pull a reasonable number of votes? So it depends on the electorate to actually decide. But then at the end of the day, I think the opposition should do better because as it stands now, so many Nigerians do not even believe in what the opposition is doing. From this political party to the other, from ADC, to NDC, to PDP. PDP is not even, I don't even know what is going on in that party because we have about 3 factions now, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 popular factions, but I was told that there's another faction of the PDP, and I'm wondering what are they doing in that party. At the end of the day, let's leave all of this behind us and then do what's best for Nigeria. Your popularity, interesting, you have the resources to contest, and I think for Atiku, said this is my last time of contesting. if I win, if I don't win, I'm not coming back. But a lot of persons do not believe him. They think maybe if Atiku does not win this election, maybe 2031, Baba will come back to say, okay, I'm sorry I made that statement. Because, it's hard to trust politicians in this country when they tell you something. Peter Obi, there was a time he said, I will never leave ABGA. He left ABGA. He left Labour Party. Even though I think most of his supporters said the moment he left Labour Party, they are not willing to support him anymore because they think he's not consistent. If there were issues in the Labour Party, they felt he was supposed to stay back and then solve the issues rather than move to another political party. So that's another problem on its own. But then he's in NDC now. Good luck to him. Atiku is also willing to contest, and there's Jonathan, and then all other candidates who might not be as popular as this was. So good luck to them. But I just feel they should do what's best for Nigerians, for the electorate, really.
I think you've drawn several points of views, and I think they're very important as well. Come 2027, if there's any other hand that is going to come strong in these elections, it has to be a coalition. It has to be a formation of caucus. It has to be an agreement between different entities coming together to usurp authority in that sense of the political spectrum. But again, it seems like they are not interested in that. Some of them still fight each other, which is okay, except that some fights would never bring anybody near the victory point. The people who are going to have the victory are going to have the victory if you decide to go that way. So I think the best way, or the better, fortunate way to look at things is to first consider what are the options, what are our chances if we don't come together, what are our chances if we come together. So those are the major conversations that should be on the front burner. Like you mentioned that Atiku said he's not going to come back. We've heard that before. And I think I love to say that these are normal things that they say because we've heard it before, and it's not because we do not trust them, and they probably don't trust themselves too, or they don't have integrity. Sometimes it's just the politics, and then politics, it has a power to compel. It has that compelling force. Sometimes if you leave power, you might just be interested in coming back to power anytime soon, because what it makes you become, and what the advantages you have for that is going to be a thing to determine how you want to move on from there. So I think largely when I hear politicians say the things they say, I take it with a pinch of salt, and I try to understand where that is coming from. And sometimes you understand that they're just trying to maintain relevance, and other times they're trying to, because like Peter Obi also said that he needs 4 years. And if you listen to speculations and analysis, empirical analysis of people who have spoken about Nigeria as a country, one thing that they keep saying is that 4 years, for example, is not enough to set Nigeria on the right course. We've gone too far away from where we want to be, right? So to now redirect the course of the country would take more than 4 years. Some have even debated it would take more than 8 years. But can we set the journey? Can we set the ball rolling? Can we set the moving train in action already? So that's the conversation, to say, let's put things to work. Maybe someday it will work and all of that. And so I think that's one of the things we're going to look out for. The parties in the country and the candidates ready to put Nigeria on the right course? Are we ready to now start thinking about Nigeria as a giant and as a world power, if so to say? Because that should be the right conversation for us going forward.
Honestly, on that 4 years being enough, I really do not support that argument that 4 years is not enough to actually, change the country. I believe that, even if you are given 20 years, if you are not ready to do anything, or if you don't have the capacity to turn anything around, you might still not be able to achieve it. So whether 4 years or 8 years, it depends on what you can do. I believe that if you are intending to be president of this nation, you must have studied, the problems, you must have studied the successes, the weaknesses of this country, the places where we need to adjust, the places where we are actually doing very well. So, you must have studied all of those things, and there. So by the time you're coming in, you know where to face, you know what to do, you know how to adjust. So if you say 4 years is not enough, I really do not believe that. If at all you cannot achieve much, but then you can still achieve something tangible within 4 years. Look at civilized nations. So many presidents did not even have up to 4 years. Some were assassinated, but in that short time, they were able to achieve something. Yes, I really do not like comparing Nigeria, with these countries, but then I think it's really good to compare because we are all human beings. Because I want to believe that there was a time Nigerians, or let me say Africans, felt inferior. They didn't see themselves as equal to the white people until the Second World War came, and they saw that Nigerians can it even kill these white people, on the battlefield? So we are not inferior. So that's why sometimes I like to compare Nigeria, with all this, civilized countries, or let me say developing countries. So what I'm trying to say is that 4 years can actually do a lot for this country if you are intentional. Because one of the problems that we have in this country is leadership problem. Yes, we have the structural problems, we have the systemic issues and all of those things, but we also have the leadership problem. We've seen leaders who were able to turn the country around. They were able to do, impressive things, for their country in a short while. So you don't need all the time in the world to do a lot. Just like people will say about Jesus Christ. I mean, he lived for how many years and he was able to do a lot. I mean, that's a lot. But I'm just trying to say that you don't need all the time in the world to make a change if you're really intentional about making a change. Because if you're intending to become president of this nation, when I listen to Peter Obi, when I listen to all these people, they seem to have the solution. Maybe it's because they are not in power yet. So that's why I said, it is good to criticize people, but when you criticize people, are you sure that when you get to that position, you will do better? Because that's one thing I like about Kemi Badenoch. Anytime she's criticizing the opponent, she's always, preferring solutions, a better way to do it, even though people might argue with her. But you see our politicians in this country, before you see any politician that will criticize somebody and then proffer a better solution, it's hard to come by, because when you listen to them, you are wondering what is going on. So can you tell us you can do better? Can you assure us you can do better? So 4 years can do a lot. It might not achieve much, because of how Nigeria has turned out in the last few years or in the last few decades now. We cannot begin to compare the Nigeria of today with the Nigeria of 70s and 80s during the oil boom. Nigeria was doing so well. We were borrowing World Bank money, IMF, we're doing a lot. Nigeria, even people were eager to come down to Nigeria to just to have to just view what is going on, to taste what is going on. Nigeria was that big at that time. But then what I'm trying to say is 4 years cannot achieve so much, but it can still do something tangible in this country. Really.
I think my point from there is it's not strictly that 4 years is not enough. It's basically that 4 years is not enough to set us where we want to be. 4 years is enough to set us on the right course, yes, but not to now say that we want to get to where we want to go in 4 years. It's a joke. Nigeria is now how old now? And there's a saying in the scriptures that says, if the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The righteous can do so much, but only so much. And so in the process of time, if you destroy something in the process of time, in fact, let's look at a building. If you want to build a building, it takes so much effort to build it. If you want to collapse that same building, it takes little effort, right? I'm not saying Nigeria is collapsed, but I can say some bricks of this country has been put down. So to now build Nigeria, 4 years is only a path to success. It's only a progress to look at. It's nothing to say that this will eventually become. Nobody can return Nigeria to where it's supposed to be in 4 years, and that's a fact. Except you just want to. Because there are many things that link to governance in the country. There are many things that are linked to politics. You understand that the executive has its power, the legislative as well, and then the judiciary. How do you make one person or some leaders change the whole system in 4 years? That's one thing. We've talked about this, and I mean, it's a continuous argument. People have it to say, 4 years is enough to get us to where we're going. But I beg to differ. 4 years is only enough to set us on the right course. 4 years will not take us to where Nigeria ought to be. Nigeria is old already. Like they say, you cannot bend a dry fish. It will crack. You don't teach an old dog a new trick. And this is not because it is not impossible. It's also because it's stressful and it will take the process of time to do this thing. If Nigeria did not get better all through this period of time, if Nigeria got worse over time, then Nigeria would need time again to get it right. It won't be. And to say 4 years, we've seen the best that even the very willing people, the willing government, for example, the Yaradua, who came with the 7-point agenda, we saw what he was about to do, and he set it right. They set the course right, for the country to progress. So, but I'm saying that to think that you can make it all happen in Nigeria in 4 years, it's sounding like you are Jesus. It's sounding like you're a Messiah. And there's no Messiah in the political spectrum. There's no Messiah even amidst men, where we are all humans, we are all erred, we are all flawed and all that. So I'm not expecting, maybe it's just a way to fool ourselves as Nigerians to say, maybe somebody will just come and turn the trajectory of this country in 4 years. I'm so sorry. That is not realistic. If you want to set a goal, set it and put us on the right course. But to say that you want to make Nigeria to become a giant that it was, to put it right on the course where it was or where we should be, I beg to differ.
I think we're still saying the same thing actually, because I said 4 years might not be enough to make this country maybe one of the best countries,
Yeah,
maybe
that's the
top
point.
10.
That's exactly
But
the
then it can achieve something tangible if you have a leader that is intentional.
Leaders, let's put it that way.
Yeah, if you have leaders that are intentional, right? So I think we are saying the same thing. 4 years might not achieve so much, but it can do something. And so when we enable some of these leaders and say, just come there, use your 4 years and maybe just step aside, or use your 8 years and then we are still complaining about the same thing. I think I really do not, I really would not like to tilt to that, side. That's what I'm saying. So 4 years might not do so much, but it can achieve so much if we have the right people, in the right, places. If they are intentional enough, study it, and that is what civilized worlds. That's what they do. Because before they get into the office, they're already doing their research, their observation, and then they know where to start. You are not coming in as a confused man. You see, when you enter a position or an organization as a confused person, you don't know what you're going there for. When you know what you want to do, what you want to achieve, there's some level of speed that you're going to enjoy, because you're able to achieve more. So 4 years, trust me, cannot do so much, but then it can achieve something tangible, because in 2026 we are still talking about how to pay our doctors early. We are still talking about ASU strike. We are still talking about certain things, roads, goods. That's why there's a problem. So because and the problem has been accumulating for years. But then 4 years might not achieve so much, but then it can set us on the right path. That's why I'm saying we are still saying the same thing, basically. And I think it's a fine place to leave that discussion this morning. We take a short break, and when we come back, we move on to the big story. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at Dominioncast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome to the big story on Dominion Television, Ibadan. Today we have an interesting conversation to have. My name is Adolu Akpo and I'm your host this morning. Of course, with the 2027 general elections on the horizon, conversations have begun around Nigeria's electoral integrity, and of course they are gaining urgency as we speak. And following the enactment of the Electoral Act of 2026 in February this year, which overhauled primary procedures, mandated digital membership registers, and institutionalized the bimodal voter accreditation system, which is the BVAS. Of course, structural policy fixes and all of this are being tested. Yet, legislative framework is only half the battle, because historically, political competition in the Nigerian spectrum continues to navigate different conversations, severe security pressures, from over 250 documented pre-election disputes in this country. And of course, incident leading to the 2027 or 2023 cycle, to persistent regional security threat across the nation. So as early campaigning activities stir political tensions, economic hardship is also on the table of discourse, different economic headwinds, voter apathy. The vital question now remains, our security, electoral, and every other institution alike, are they taking empirical steps to guarantee peace across the nation before the polls? That is one of the conversations we'll be driving this morning. But I won't drive that alone, because joined with me at the studio. In the studio today is Sam Woko, who is the deputy editor of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Good morning to you, Sam Woko, and welcome to the big story.
Thank you. Good morning. Good
It's
morning,
always a pleasure
viewer.
to have you.
Good to be here once again.
All right. I wanted to ask if you are related to the lawmaker, Nedun Woko.
No, I am not.
So I wanted
In fact,
that because...
we are two states apart.
Oh, wow.
He's from Delta, I'm from Abia.
Abia.
Yes.
Anyway, because the name, I wanted to come from the angle of policy, maybe to
Yes.
say that your brother, it was part of the people that made the policy framework for this election.
Yeah.
But-
You are not far from, because historically, from what my grandfather told me, the same Ahaba in Abia State are the people who migrated and become Asaba
In Delta.
in Delta. So
Wow.
Nedmoko is one of those places. I think he's from one of the adjoining communities there. So you never can tell. But anyhow, he's still my brother. On electoral issues, he's my brother because electoral frameworks affect all of us.
Absolutely.
Aha. So one way or the other, we are brothers. And when it comes to the polls and looking for how to create opportunities for good governance, we are brothers in this. Yes.
So let's start. I think it's a very good feat to probably put out this morning. And of course, you know, the Electoral Act of 2026 was enacted sometimes in February. Different conversations, some persons saying, is this enough? The different conversations about the electronic transmission as well, and a lot of things came about on the front burner. But let's start from here this morning. There were key things that were included in that particular act, including mandating digital membership registers, you know, for political parties to stall or to forestall primary disputes across political parties. But again, some would now say that, is this enough? But let's take it from an editorial and analytical angle that you are coming from today. All of these updates, will they meaningfully translate into progress as to stopping the root drivers of electoral violence in Nigeria? Do you think they are capable of making us witness another election that is free, fair, and credible without violence in the country come 2027?
The straight answer to that is no.
They're not enough.
Because we are not bereft of frameworks. We are not bereft of ideas. We are not lacking in policies. We are not lacking in laws. We are not lacking in intentions and so on. But what we are lacking in is the political will to drive all these already existing. You know, we have a whole lot of extant policies and laws and so on. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, politics is like a carousel. It will go, come around, go, come around, go, come around. What do I mean? When Jonathan was there, we attained a certain level of electoral peace of mind. I don't know one word for that. We attained a certain level of electoral confidence as Nigerians. And we were saying, okay, it looks like because he flowed from the intention of his immediate predecessor, that's Umar Yar'Adua, who said, no, I know that the election that brought me in was flawed. So we are going to do something about it. And on the premise of that, on that foundational basis, Jonathan worked on electoral reforms. We saw it. We witnessed it. People turned out to vote, and after the initial wobbles, we got it right, so to say. So we had elections, so much that he himself was defeated. Because if he had said, no, pull the plugs, nothing would have happened. They pulled plugs in 2019. I am aware of it. You know, so what I'm trying to say is that being on a carousel means we are in a kind of merry-go-round with elections. When we get to that individual who wants electoral cleanliness, so to say, he will say, no, let's do elections as elections should be. Test your popularity. If you win, fine. If you don't win. And then when the carousel moves and also gets to somebody who wants it at all costs, we used to have a do or die. You know, when Obasanjo said this election is a do or die for PDP, and it stuck. Now we are dealing with all is fair in politics. So it's a carousel.
There was a question that would probably come to mind when you mentioned all is fair in politics, because some regarded the president as saying all is fair in politics just a few days before the Osun election. And we saw what happened in Osun about a lot of persons, depending on the reports you get, over 20 people were said to have been killed during the election. And so this is really an abysmal case for the country. But do you think the statement of President Bola Tinubu to say all is fair in politics is right? Or does it contribute to this problem of electoral violence?
You see, it's rather unfortunate that the statement has taken a life of its own. Let's marry it to what happened in Osun. Long before, months before the election in Osun came upon us, there were signs that the tension was going to be there. And the number of people who were killed in that election, like you said, depending on the report, it couldn't have been less than 18 in the final reports. Some of the reports we get and so on and so forth. But what it points to is that more than 10 or more than 15 lost their lives just for a governorship election, in an off-season election, which should have even been clean enough because everybody will relax and watch what is happening there. Now, if all is fair in politics, then it means that even violence, because there was the issue of grab it, snatch it, and run away with it, that's also fair. You know, if it's stifle those, cripple cripple your opponent in areas where he is popular, and all those old strategies. However, one peculiar thing I noticed in Osun election is the determination of the people to go the whole hog. Because I know a lot of people who stayed overnight physically on the streets and at the INEC State Secretariat. They call it headquarters, maybe state headquarters of INEC in Osun State, to monitor what goes in there and what comes out. This is what we brought as confirmed results from the polling units and the polling centers and so on. What are you going to announce? We learned that there was about a 4-hour hiatus during the collation of the results. What happened? What kept the 4 hours in the view of people? Because there was that tension also. So all I'm trying to say is that policies are there, laws are there, decisions are even there, motions and so on and so forth. But do these translate to electoral violence being curbed? Do these translate to people saying no, because of this law and this policy, we will not engage ourselves in electoral violence? No, it doesn't, because the part of violence is also part of breaking the entire gamut of the laws. So that's what I saw happen in Osun. The people stood and said no, regardless of what happens, because we saw videos of people who stood against policemen, soldiers, and so on, and said no, we want to know what you are doing here. Even the driver who was calling, perhaps to ask for directions, was asked, who are you calling? And that's how people, the eternal vigilance is the price for freedom kind of thing. So that's what happened there, as far as I'm concerned. So all is fair in politics as well as law. Do laws prevent violence? No. If laws were preventing violence and preventing crimes and so on, we wouldn't have had the courts. So that's how I see it.
So sorry, let me come from there. So why then is there an upgrade in what was used in 2022 as the 2022 Electoral Act? Why should we have a difference if we are not upgrading the system?
Yeah, my problem with INEC too. Now, this 2026 Electoral Act has raised some concerns. And the concern for many of the civil society organizations who have pointed them out are that the Electoral Act has given a kind of, has muddled the waters. If certain things happen, in the last Osun election, one of the issues that we are raised was that if ballot boxes do not follow a particular serial number, that they can be accepted. And that leaves a room for ballot box papers to be brought in and stuffed, and except the people now say no, this is the number of ballots here and this is the number of ballots we are going to use, so cast your ballots, cast your votes, then we count based on what happens. So those things are there. Upgrade, yes. Why don't we upgrade to digital? INEC says we can. In 2023 they said they could do it.
Yes.
But towards that election, the National Assembly said no, we will not support it because some places are not covered. And some of us are saying, okay, use it in places that are covered, that are digitally active. Then those places that are not digitally active, go and do manual elections.
Do both, do manual, and if we can.
Because we spend a lot of money conducting these elections. Look at how much money it takes to deploy the military. Look at how much money it takes to deploy the civil defense, the police, move them. We learned that people came from Ebonyi states, people came from very far away states to Osun to conduct elections. These people will be paid allowances. These people their vehicles will be fueled. Those who will fly, and so on. Look at the logistics that went into it. So when we upgrade, we should upgrade with the view to making it easier on all of us and easier for the electorate. That's what I think.
I think that's a very strong and valid point you've made. But maybe some would say that Do you think that the legislators, or should we say the lawmakers, are not ready to have a transparent election?
I think so. I think so.
That the lawmakers are conniving
Now,
not to have it.
Look at the troubles Nigerians went through during the time of electronic transmission or no electronic transmission. You remember there were protests at the National Assembly.
You're right.
People laid siege at that place. People spent days there protesting and shouting and shouting. We didn't have to do that. These are lawmakers. Make laws for the good governance of the country. So, what is the problem in making laws that will make elections easier, smoother, more reliable
And transparent.
transparent? I have been wondering why it is impossible to say, okay, use your phone for candidate A, press 1. For candidate B, press 2. And there will be a central portal. They will tell you, no, it can be hacked. Hey, Emma Pajalobofuwa now. We know these things can happen. Now, you now be modeling up laws. You'll be making the laws. You create a labyrinth. People will now begin to navigate the laws to begin to disentangle one from the other. I remember the red biro issue in Ekiti. They said because the results were recorded in a red biro, for more than 1 month, they were arguing that in the courts. And those were some of the things that led to the creation of a time limit within which elections can be tried. We had governors who had spent 4 years, who had spent 3 years going to the 4th year, with a few months left, and they were removed. Then somebody started governance all over again. But now, thankfully, we have gone beyond that. I'm sure one day we'll still come to what all of us are saying. The telecom companies said, look, we can achieve 90%. At least we can achieve at least 90% coverage. If in an election in a place like Ekiti, where you have a Pao, where you have a Yemero, where you have very far places in Ekiti North, if the resident electoral commissioner can sit in the comfort of his office and monitor what is happening in Ekpao, in Ileje, in Yemero, in places like that, then why can't he monitor how the election? Because there will be layers. Nigerians are very innovative. IREV is our innovation. You don't go through all these things when they are voting in the United States. We almost always watch their elections. People will go to work and go branch vote and go home and so on and do some other things. They don't shut the country down. We should end this kind of
but that's those who would say that the president has a hand in it. Why the lawmakers refuse that? So because some said a good number of the lawmakers are already dancing to the tunes of the president, especially as we've seen in the cross-carpeting issues across the legislative arm of the country. So some would say that maybe Tinubu was in the know.
Yeah, I think he's in the know.
So you think Tinubu does not want a transparent election?
It may not be as straightforward as that. Tinubu wants something that will make the next electoral cycle easier for him.
For him?
Yes.
Not for democracy?
Well, for him, as we speak today, he is the face of our democracy. Right? He may not be the right face. He may not be the right arms and the legs and the eyes and so on. But Tinubu, if they are discussing Nigeria, Tinubu will be the montage, the photo and so on. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, the senators senators and reps who are cross-carpeting, we are doing that for their own democratic reasons also, because some of them are really very selfish. And unfortunately, some of them did not get the return tickets they were promised. And I don't know how this will pan out. That may come back as the intrigues of the next political cycle, electoral cycle and political season. But if we look at it very well, if we want to be fair, be honest with ourselves, then the lawmakers are influenced to do what they did. Because they knew the right thing to do. And they needed people's force to be able to say, okay, like Fela sang, give them human rights. Human rights is already yours. These things are already your job to do. Make it easier. Make law or make laws for the good governance of the country. Where does good governance start from? Executive. Who makes the law? The laws. The legislature. And if there is a gap, then there will be a problem. But they are not trying to create the kind of things we expect to see.
All right, so Sam, let's get over that very briefly and go to security. There's no conversation that would be on the front burner in Nigeria that would not have to cross over security, because we've seen, even without elections, there's insecurity in many parts of this country, and a number of people have died, which is not even supposed to. In the last election in Osun State, somebody wants to become a governor, and some people have to die. It's really, really unfathomable. It's really appalling, and it's unacceptable in the country. But let's talk about security, because we saw after that there was a massive deployment across the certain regions and the local government areas in Osun State. But we cannot have the same come 2027 general elections, because there's going to be is a season cycle of elections. So there's going to be many more states to cover. Of course, the national election is also to be covered and all of that. So there's not enough manpower in the security architecture. But let's take it from this angle to say, according to civil society organizations, they've recorded about 250 violence incidents during the last major election cycle, according to the data that I'm working with. It says, and so with ongoing regional security overstretch, which is of course one of the things we are going to expect in the coming elections, from banditry to localized security, insecurity, agitations, and all of that. But my question now is, what empirical evidence suggests that our security architecture can protect over 176,000 polling units in the country without compromising neutrality?
Unfortunately, we don't have we don't have that strength. And, some of these things are tied together. The infrastructure, the security architecture is tied to the apron strings of the commander-in-chief, the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So he has the final say, so to say. So he will authorize the deployments. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the people also have their wishes. The people are like, okay, we want to go and vote for the person of our choice. Then on the third arm of this picture is, where does the ungoverned spaces come in? And those are the places where you have the height of insecurity. We have a lot of ungoverned spaces. Would there be elections in those places? In the urban areas, what will happen in the urban areas? In the riverine areas, in the ravines, in the islands, on the island, go to places like Bonny, go to Finima, go to
Niger Delta,
Brass, Akasa, very far places, people would vote. We've heard that the number of soldiers in this country, because many times they are actually way overstretched, stretched way beyond the limit, and it happens. We expect it in this coming election too, because now it has begun to look like, without soldiers on the streets, we may not trust the electoral process. No, that is why we are saying, why not let's go digital? Why not let's look for some? We can even do our elections like they do in parts in India, in their general elections. They don't do elections in one day because there are so very many.
The population is high.
Well, yes, and when the resources are overstretched or are stretched like that, why not break it and plan it so well, so that when we hold that of the southeast region today,
we have deployment.
Cover it and so on. You keep that. In the coming weeks, a week or thereabouts, you do that of the southwest, you do that. But Nigeria being what it is, you have ideas, you have plans, you have projections. But when the powers that be says, no, this is what I want, you are the one who would now have to go and fit your plans into what the authorities want. So those are some of the problems. And that is what will stretch our security. That is what will stretch our transportation system. That is what will shut down our economy on election day. Because there's going to be one election day, we'll have presidential and other ones. And after that day, during the other ones, the same thing too. So, we don't have the materials, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the wherewithal, infrastructurally, even mentally, because it could be tasking. Imagine some emergencies, imagine people who live by the day and things like that. So it's a big problem, and it looks like the political powers don't want it solved.
So that was going to be what I was about to round off on. Maybe to ask you that, do you trust this administration come 2027? Because there's been that debate of, can the APC lose peacefully if the chips are down? Maybe if it comes to
Let me even take it from you. The president told the Catholic Bishops' Conference when they visited him, he said, perhaps if he had said it in Yoruba, it would have been more profound. Ẹni tó máa gba kíní lọ́wọ́ mi yóò múra. I'm sure he thought in Yoruba when he said, whoever will take it from me will walk. Those were his words.
But if his work is okay.
Oh, yes. It's figurative.
So you think there's more to the word?
There is more to the word. There is more to all is fair in politics. There is more to there had been hunger in the land before I was born. There is more. There are more to all these things.
So there are nuances that are laced in these conversations.
The statements are layered. They are laced. They are ingrained. And now we are going to see it. So you asked if I trust the APC. Of course, it can't go down easy. If Tinubu could win election, or so to say, without being in power, and now that he is in power, seated as the commander-in-chief with all the powers on that seat. Thank you.
I want to say a very big thank you. Many thanks to you today, Sam Oko, the Deputy Editor at the Nigerian Tribune, for sharing your insight with us on the victory this morning.
Thank you.
And of course, laws like the Electoral Act is also a conversation. Of course, 2026, the Electoral Act is supposed to provide the blueprints, but peaceful elections ultimately demand institutional accountability, decisive security enforcement, and a lot of that. But we want to say a very big thank you for joining us on this conversation this morning. So we're just tuning into the next level, on the next segment of this program, but I'll be shortly after this break. Stay with us.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets.
Welcome back from that short break. That was an insightful conversation with Sam Oko, a Deputy Editor with Nigerian Tribune. We just want to hope that at the end of the day, with all that we've heard, people will do better this time around in terms of campaign rallies and all of those things. You don't have to injure people. People don't have to die because you went to a particular place to campaign, basically.
Yeah, well, I think it's also the conversation that will keep spreading, and the message we keep telling is that elections are not do or die. They should not be. There should not be that because someone wants to become king, then all heads will roll. We don't want heads to roll. We don't want lives to be lost. We want a free, fair, and credible election. To every concerned a stakeholder in this particular conversation, the INEC particularly, the security architecture, and even the incumbent administration of the APC at the federal level, we want free, fair, and credible election. That's not too much to ask of you, and I think that's my point. And that's what the question many Nigerians are putting on the table.
Exactly. And then just to conclude, if you're very confident and that you know what you want to do, when you eventually get the position, why do you need to hire thugs or miscreants to do the dirty job for you? Basically, just come out, campaign, go home, and then leave it to the people to decide. And I think it's a fine place to leave the discussion this morning. Thank you so much for being a part of today's edition of Daybreak Live. My name is Oluwayemi Adelako, and don't forget that your vote is your power. I'll see you next time.
And I say many thanks for joining us again. Join us again next tomorrow on Wednesday. It's going to be another conversation, bringing certain topics that are of interest to you, especially because elections are fast approaching. So we need to prepare. So must you as well as a Nigerian. Of course, my name is Anulu Akpoido, saying bye for now.